Dorothy had just turned 58, a retired schoolteacher from Knoxville, Tennessee, mother of 3, grandmother of 4, a woman of quiet faith and stubborn patience. Every morning, before the sun had fully risen, she'd wake up with a muscle cramp. Not the mild kind you get after a long hike. The kind that jolts you awake, forces you to sit on the edge of the bed, pressing your foot flat against the floor, waiting for it to pass. At night, she barely slept. Anxiety would come out of nowhere. Her heart would race at 2 in the morning for no obvious reason. She'd drag herself through the next day, heavy, exhausted in a way that coffee couldn't fix. She'd had every test done. Thyroid normal, CBC normal, blood sugar normal. Her previous doctor told her everything looked fine. Maybe stress, maybe just getting older. But Dorothy knew something was wrong, and she was right. I've been practicing medicine for nearly 20 years, and her case stuck with me in a way few cases do. Not because of a dramatic diagnosis. What stayed with me was the answer, because the solution to her suffering was growing, literally, in her backyard. And no one had paid attention to that plant in decades. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to show you not just what this plant is, but how science confirms what entire civilizations already knew more than 3,000 years ago. And I'm going to explain how an industry, without any secret meetings, without any conspiracy, quietly erased that knowledge from generations of people, including doctors like me. Before we go further, I need to be straight with you. When I say the industry doesn't want you to know about this plant, I'm not talking about a movie villain scenario. I'm talking about something subtler and far more powerful. The quiet mechanism by which money directs scientific attention, and what doesn't generate profit simply disappears from collective awareness. My commitment to you is medical truth, not sensationalism. Let's start with the problem Dorothy had, because there's a real chance you or someone you love is dealing with the same thing right now. Magnesium is a mineral involved in more than 300 enzymatic reactions inside the human body. It plays a role in muscle contraction, nerve signal transmission, cellular energy production, heart rhythm regulation, and blood sugar balance. When it's low, everything starts going wrong at the same time. And the symptoms can look so different from each other that doctors rarely connect them to a single underlying cause. Research and nutritional surveys suggest that roughly 80% of Americans don't consume adequate amounts of magnesium. 4 out of 5 people. And the problem is deceptive, because a standard blood test doesn't accurately detect this deficiency. Only about 1% of the body's magnesium actually circulates in the blood. The rest is stored in bones and soft tissues. Think about that. You can have a normal lab result and still be running on low for years without knowing it. That's exactly what had happened to Dorothy. When she came back to see me a second time, I ordered a more specific test. The result confirmed it. Subclinical magnesium deficiency, the kind that doesn't show up on a routine panel. I asked about her diet. Chicken, rice, salads, some fruit. Pretty typical American home cooking. And then I asked her something specific. Dorothy, do you have any weeds growing in your backyard? She gave me the look people give when they think the doctor has lost his mind. Sure do, doctor. That stuff I keep pulling out every few weeks. That's the whole story right there. What she called a weed, and pulled out every month, was probably the most nutritionally dense plant growing 2 feet from her kitchen door. This plant has a scientific name, Chenopodium album. In the United States, it's commonly called lamb's quarters. In India, where 300 million people eat it every week, it's called Bathua. In Mexico, Quilite. In Turkey, Akirin. Dozens of names in dozens of languages for the same plant. And that lack of a unified identity in the Western world is exactly where its erasure began. Its history goes back much further than any grocery store or pharmaceutical company. Let me tell you where it comes from. In 1950, Danish peat workers cutting through a bog near the village of Toland uncovered a human body so perfectly preserved by the soil's acidity, it looked like a recent murder victim. The face still showed stubble, eyes closed, as if sleeping. He had died more than 2,400 years ago. Scientists called him the Toland Man. When they analyzed his stomach contents, they found what he had eaten in the final hours of his life: barley, flax seeds, and in higher concentrations than anything else, the leaves and seeds of Chenopodium album. In 2021, researchers at the National Museum of Denmark published the most detailed analysis ever conducted on that last meal, in the journal Antiquity. This plant wasn't a weed to him. It was intentionally cultivated food, and it wasn't just in Europe. Archaeologists have found evidence of deliberate cultivation of this plant family among indigenous peoples in the eastern United States, going back approximately 5,000 years. 2,000 years before corn arrived from Mexico. 3 independent civilizations, on different continents, looked at this plant and reached the same conclusion without any contact with each other. This feeds our people. And here's something that might actually surprise you. This plant is a close relative of quinoa. Same botanical genus, Chenopodium. A study published in the Journal of Food Composition and Analysis compared the two directly. The results were striking. Chenopodium album showed superior nutritional and amino acid profiles compared to quinoa across several key markers. The free plant outperforms the one that costs $8 a pound at Whole Foods. Before I get into the full numbers, I need to ask you something. If this content is helping you, if you're learning something you didn't know, please hit the like button right now. That simple action helps this video reach more people who need this information. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And let me know in the comments what city you're watching from. I love seeing where this community is growing. Now, the data. Research conducted by the United States Botanic Garden compared lamb's quarters to lettuce, spinach, and cabbage. The results. More than double the potassium, 3 times the calcium, and 5 times the magnesium of spinach. In 100 grams of fresh leaves, 96% of your daily vitamin C requirement, 73% of your vitamin A, 31% of your calcium, all at just 43 calories. There's also a critical technical detail worth understanding. Spinach is high in oxalic acid, which binds to minerals like calcium and magnesium and reduces how much your body can actually absorb. It's like having a safe full of cash but the wrong key. Research on the Chenopodium genus shows that lamb's quarters has lower oxalate interference rates than spinach or beets. What you eat actually reaches your cells. So why have you never heard of this plant? Why isn't it on any grocery store shelf? The first reason is fragmentation of names. A plant without a consistent identity in a language doesn't make it into cookbooks, doesn't appear in funding proposals, doesn't get a presence in Western databases. It stays foreign in every encounter. The second reason is economic. The global magnesium supplement market hit $3.5 billion in 2023, with projections approaching $7 billion by 2032. That growth depends on one thing: continued magnesium deficiency in the population. A plant that grows on its own, produces an average of 72,000 seeds per plant, and whose seeds remain viable in the soil for up to 40 years, is not a product. It's a solution. And solutions don't generate recurring revenue. The third reason is agricultural classification. The very characteristic that makes this plant remarkable as food, its ability to grow in any soil, in any climate, without cultivation, made it a problem for industrial monoculture. It competes with corn and soybeans, so it was classified as one of the most competitive agricultural weeds. Herbicide manufacturers found an enemy. Billions of dollars in chemicals designed to kill a plant that feeds people. There's no conspiracy here. There's something more powerful than a conspiracy. The quiet mechanism by which the economic system simply ignores what cannot be owned, patented, and sold over and over again. Now let me introduce you to someone else. Marcus was 42, a high school history teacher in Columbus, Ohio. Methodical, well-read. He came in with insomnia that had been going on for over 2 years, and migraines hitting 2 or 3 times a week. He'd tried melatonin, magnesium glycinate supplements, strict sleep hygiene protocols. Nothing stuck. He was going through ibuprofen like it was candy. When I looked at his diet, it seemed like what most people would call healthy. Grilled chicken, brown rice, salads, fruit, but almost no dark leafy greens, almost no seeds. Marcus is actually the one who pushed me to research Chenopodium album more deeply. When I mentioned the plant to him, he did what a history teacher naturally does. He went and found the studies himself. He came back 2 weeks later with printed pages, including the antiquity paper on the Tolland man. He looked at me and said, "Doctor, I've spent my whole career studying civilizations that depended on this plant. I had no idea it was growing in the sidewalk cracks outside my house." And this is where the conversation really matters. Because I'm not talking about 2 isolated cases. I'm talking about a pattern I see repeated in the clinic. Real symptoms, normal labs, invisible suffering. What hurts most as a doctor isn't when a patient comes in with a serious diagnosis. It's when they tell me, "I've been living with this for years. I just thought it was normal." Because it wasn't normal. Dorothy's body was asking for help every morning with cramps. Marcus's body was asking for help with migraines 3 times a week. And the mineral they were both missing was growing in the backyard, in the cracks in the sidewalk, in the empty lot down the street. Let's talk about how you can actually start using this plant, because knowing it exists without knowing what to do with it doesn't help anyone. First, learn to recognize it. Medium to dark green leaves, roughly triangular or diamond-shaped with gently scalloped edges. The detail that sets it apart is a whitish, almost powdery coating on the younger leaves at the tip of each stem, like someone dusted them with a fine flour. That's not dirt, it's not mold. It's the plant's natural signature. Second, harvest the young leaves at the tips of the stems, softer, milder in flavor, similar to young spinach or baby arugula. Third, and this is the most important shift, stop treating this plant as a pest. Every time you pull it and throw it away, you're discarding a nutritional concentrate that nature placed at your door free of charge. How to use it: raw in salads, mixed with arugula, watercress, or whatever greens you already use. Sautéed with garlic and olive oil, exactly the way you'd cook spinach or Swiss chard. In soups and stews, the leaves soften in minutes and enrich any broth. The dried seeds can be cooked as a grain, used the same way as quinoa. One technical note: heat slightly reduces the vitamin C content, but doesn't significantly affect the minerals. For magnesium and calcium, raw or cooked both work well. And as always, before making major changes to your diet, talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian, especially if you have a history of kidney stones, because any dark leafy green in large amounts requires guidance. That's a principle that never changes. 2 months later, Marcus came back. His migraines had dropped from 2 or 3 per week to less than 1 per month. His sleep had measurably improved. He told me, "It's ironic, Doc. I spent my whole career studying how ancient civilizations lived, and their nutritional wisdom was sitting outside my window the entire time, waiting for me to pay attention." And Dorothy? 3 weeks after our conversation about lamb's quarters, her daughter sent me a text message. She says the cramps stopped. She's sleeping through the night. She told me it feels like someone turned a light on. She hadn't taken a single supplement, hadn't bought anything. She simply stopped pulling the plant out of her backyard and started eating what was already there. Let's recap. Magnesium is involved in more than 300 functions in the body, and roughly 80% of Americans don't consume enough of it. Lamb's quarters contains 5 times more magnesium than spinach, with better bioavailability, and was intentionally cultivated by civilizations on 3 continents more than 3,000 years ago. The disappearance of this plant from Western awareness wasn't a conspiracy. It was the natural result of an economic system that only funds and promotes what can be patented. And it grows freely across the United States, in backyards, vacant lots, and roadside edges, ready to eat. Your body is not your enemy. It's constantly working to stay balanced, to compensate for what's missing. When a cramp wakes you at 2 in the morning, when a migraine hits for the 3rd time in a week, when you're exhausted after a full night's sleep, those are signals. Those are the ways your body talks when it doesn't have another option. And sometimes, the answer to those signals is growing in the backyard. Share this video with someone you care about who complains constantly about leg cramps, who can't sleep, who reaches for pain relievers like they're mints. They need to see this. In the next video, I'm going to walk you through 5 other plants that grow freely across the United States, common enough to be called weeds, whose nutritional value science has already shown to be comparable to supplements sold at pharmacies. Plants that most people throw away every week without realizing what they're discarding. You won't want to miss it. Take care of yourself. And the next time you see that plant growing along the edge of your yard, before you pull it out, take a closer look. Nature might be offering you exactly what you've been missing.